I just remember feeling so insecure. I just remember seeking for external validation. I just remember constantly chasing, trying to make things happen in my own strength, all to try and make me feel better, but yet didn't work. You see, when we think about this topic of insecurity, when we think about this topic of confidence, there are so many things in the world today that are fighting for us to bring us down, or should I say fighting against us, bringing us down, making us feel like we are less than we really are. And you know, when I think about this topic of overcoming insecurity, the one thing that comes to my mind is confidence. Why? Because what I now recognize is that my confidence comes from knowing whose I am. My confidence comes from knowing the identity I have in Christ. My confidence comes from knowing that what Jesus did for me on the cross has given me so much power. But here's the thing. The world doesn't actively shove that in our face. What it does is shove the other things in our face, the insecurities, making us feel bad about ourselves, and just so many things that I cannot even begin to list one by one here in this video. But one thing that I will say, and one thing that I do just want to come on this video and say short, nice, and straight to the point is this. Overcoming insecurity as a Christian woman comes from knowing whose we are. What does this look like practically? Here are 3 things that I would definitely recommend and just want to share with you today. Number 1, focus on your strengths. What is it that you are good at? What areas do you thrive in? What things come naturally to you? What are your gifts? What are the things that naturally you just do? What are the things that, you know, people often say to you, oh my goodness, you're good at this, you're good at that. I don't know. What are your gifts? What are the things that you are naturally good at? I say this in context to say where our focus goes, our energy flows. There's this exercise that I do at some of my speaking engagements, and it's this. If I were to say, actually, let's do this together right now. If I were to say, I want you to stare at your finger for 10 seconds. I want you to do it with me. Come, let's go. 10, 9, 8, keep staring. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Now, what did you see as you were staring at your finger? Okay, you saw your finger, you saw your fingerprints. Now, as you were staring at that finger, your finger became really clear and you could see into the detail of your finger, but then you noticed that everything else in the background was blurry. Why? Because what you were focused on suddenly became so clear to you. Now, here's the thing, in the context of, you know, confidence building and overcoming self-esteem, it's exactly the same principle. See, the reality of the situation is that the obstacles in life, the things in the background are still going to exist, but depending on what we're focusing on is what's going to be magnified. So if we're constantly focusing on the things that, you know, maybe we're not so great at, or the things that God hasn't said about us, then of course we're not going to feel the best. But what if we started focusing on, you know, our strengths? What if we started focusing on our God-given talents? Then I think that would be a different story. Here's number 2, declaring words of life and power. This is something I did for a long time ago, even before I became a Christian. And I just remember, you know, affirming positive affirmations and just saying my day is going to be a certain way, etc., etc. But when it had to come with my self-esteem and my identity in Christ and overcoming insecurities, one of the things that I've learned to do is that there is so much power in the words that we speak. So now what do? I have different folders on my laptop, on my phone, that tell me about my identity in Christ. So when I'm having one of those days where I forget who I am and the world has done a great job at reminding me and telling me I'm this, I'm that, or I'm not anything, I look at those affirmations. I say those affirmations out loud. I was going to start speaking in Spanish then. I say those affirmations out loud and I begin to remind myself of who I am, declare words of life and power. And tip number 3 is this. Remember to run your race and not the person on your left, and not the person on your right, not the person ahead, and not the person behind you. We all have our individual races, and this is something that, you know, in this day and age where it is so easy for our downtime to be on social media, to be scrolling, to be looking at what other people are doing, it is so easy for us unknowingly and unconsciously to get inside a race, someone else's lane, and start running their race or looking at their, you know, journey and letting that be the determining factor for the way we should do things. Now, don't get me wrong, I love looking on Instagram, I love getting inspiration from people, but I have to tell myself, hey, Ayo, getting a little bit jealous, getting a little bit envious. This has gone past the inspiration phase, and this is now going into the, oh, but why am I not doing that? Look at where they're at and look at where I'm not. When it gets to that place, I have to rein it back in. I've got accountability, I've got mentors, I've got friends who, you know, I can speak to about these things, who I can outlet on. I journal, I speak to God about these kind of things. But what am I saying is, us remembering to run our own race is the point where we understand, and a point where we constantly remind ourselves that, yo, God has a very individual race for every single one of us. So these are just 3 things that, you know, I've come on here to share with you today. This is part 3 of the Armor of God series. You know, we've done part 1, we've done part 2, and this is part 3. And these are just things that, you know, through, as I've been studying the armor of God, you know, putting on the helmet, putting on the breastplate, putting on the belt, putting on the, you know, using the sword, and then the other ones that, you know, I didn't just mention right now. You know, the whole armor of God is for our benefit. It's to remind us that, yo, God is for us. He's not against us. This is a constant daily reminder. I have to remind myself of this. You have to remind yourself of this. Our mentors, our friends, our pastors, our leaders ought to remind themselves of this as well. This is a thing, a continuous journey for every single one of us. So I want to leave you with this. He who lives inside of you is greater than he who lives inside of this world. My name is Ayo. Have a fantastic rest of the day. Hasta luego y adiós.